Now, it's not just the IRS, it's not just the government. They have also drawn into their net of falling credibility corporations who are now trying to do a PR campaign to get the public to trust them again. Both Microsoft and Google came out this week with some kind of face-saving lawsuits that really aren't going to do anything to stop the spying. All they're going to do is presumably allow them to talk about the fact that they're turning over X number of amount of information to the government per their request. It's not going to give us any protection at all against illegal corporate spying, but it's meant to be a PR campaign. And Yahoo and Facebook have indulged in the same type of PR campaign. Listen to what Yahoo's CEO Marissa Mayer said. She said, Yahoo has previously unsuccessfully sued the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, that's FISA, which provides the legal framework for the NSA surveillance. No, that's wrong. There is no legal basis for the FISA court. The FISA court is not a court. Listen to what John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, said just a couple of months ago at the beginning of July. When he was informing the Senate of what was going on, it was the Senate Judiciary Committee, he said, when I first learned about the FISA court, I was surprised, he told the committee. It's not what we usually think of when we think of a court. We think of a place where we can go, where we can watch the lawyers argue, and it's subject to the glare of publicity, and the judges explain their decision to the public, and they can examine them. Now, why would the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court be surprised about the existence of FISA? Why would it be news to all the senators? Well, because this is something that was done in secret, without any lawful or constitutional authority. And it's not a court. Look at the things he's talking about with a court. He said, in a court, you have a place where you can go and you can watch. It's public. It's transparent. People can see it. That's the essence of a court. You also have a jury. He didn't mention that. But you do have lawyers arguing, and you have the public looking at what's going on, and then you have judges who make decisions and explain them to the public, and you can see those. All of that is missing in a FISA court. It's not a court. It's a single politically appointed judge. Now, this is what the CEO of Yahoo was saying. They made their decision, and we had to obey them. Listen to what she says. In 2007, we asked to be allowed to publish details of requests they received from the spy agency, that's Yahoo. And she said, when you lose and you don't comply, it's treason. We think it makes more sense to work within the system, she said. No, it doesn't. That's the Nuremberg defense, just following orders. What this is a star chamber that is overturning centuries of a culture of liberty, of a legal foundation, of a framework. This is as if the government were bombing the Louvre and destroying all the culture of the Louvre. Or this is as if they were burning the library in Alexandria. They're destroying everything, going back to the Magna Carta with this. They're reinstituting things like the Star Chamber. They're taking away trial by jury. They're doing all of this. They're doing it in secret. They don't have a court, but they're pretending that they're modifying the Constitution. They're not modifying the Constitution. Everything that they're doing has absolutely no authority, no constitutional authority. They are a regime that is operating. If she was anything other than a Quisling, she would have demanded a real trial in a real court with a real jury, and that jury would have found her innocent. She would have been a hero instead of Ed Snowden. They would have gone behind her, and instead of trying to create some kind of a phony PR, save their face, she would have been a hero. Or Zuckerberg, if you can imagine him having the guts to stand up to something like that. But instead, they decided, just like Quisling, that they would go along with the Nazis, that it was easier for them to do that. It was easier for them to say that they were just following orders. So that's where we are today. And while Rome burns, we've got Democrats and Republicans that are pushing further in other areas of our life, in food. Well, while we've been trying to constrain our government in other areas, House Republicans have quietly included a 3-month extension for the Farmers Assurance provision in the new spending bill, or as it's popularly known, the Monsanto Protection Act, the very act that hundreds of thousands of people were protesting back in May.
That's exactly right, David. So even though hundreds of thousands of Americans, people all over the world, called on their representatives to stop this genetically modified global takeover in its tracks, instead they've gone ahead and extended this special interest loophole that basically nullifies any court orders that are there to protect farmers, the environment, or public health.
And of course, that's the law that prevents judges from putting injunctions to delay these genetically modified seeds, even if people are concerned that they're unsafe.
Exactly. And Monsanto has been arguing that it's really unfair to single out their company in this farmer assurance provision by naming it the Monsanto Protection Act, because they say there's a lot of other agribusinesses that are really supportive of what this is. And that is a very good point. Companies like DuPont, who just paid more than $3 million to bolster opposition for genetically modified food labeling. So in addition to the $4.5 million check that was written by Monsanto, opponents of GMO labeling have raised 4 times as much as those people that are calling for just basic labeling of food. So people everywhere have expressed anger with genetically modified foods. They're calling on labeling. So why have our representatives not just allowed this to expire? Well, that is because there is a much bigger agenda going on here. It's called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And it's a super secret trade pact that's being negotiated absolutely outside of law. So basically, you just have a bunch of White House loyalists running around the world and strong-arming countries into joining up with the TPP, and they've dubbed it free trade. So in addition to banning GMO labeling, any country that wants to join the TPP has to agree to let genetically modified crops grow in their country, secretly, mind you, because there is no labeling for genetically modified foods. They've already knocked that out. And any country that doesn't want genetically modified crops in their country will be labeled anti-free trade practices, and they could face economic sanctions. So if you thought the Bilderberg Group was bad and diabolical, the TPP has already met 19 times since they just started meeting in 2009. For instance, the TPP is going to open up the food market to allow countries who have virtually no enforcement of regulations on pesticides and herbicides, as well as practicing any food safety protocol, to produce food that's going to be sold to the United States and other nations. We're seeing this with Smithfield Foods. They are recommending that their shareholders vote for the pork producer to be sold for $4.7 billion to a Chinese company. Now, if this happens, that will be the largest ever U.S. company to be sold to a Chinese company. A Chinese company will be in control of our pork production. The Chinese knowingly sell us toxic and poisonous toys to our children. They have known cancer villages which create the food that feeds their population with rice paddies with really high levels of cadmium and chromium, cause leukemia and bone and kidney damage. This is what they knowingly feed their people, and they'll be sending it our way. It is absolutely perverse. These corporations have no problem putting profit over public health and safety and apparently the public interest by trying to bypass food labeling as well as protect these biotech giants from any litigation.
And how long is that extension?
Well, due to the extension, the bill is set to expire December 15th. So that means we really need to step it up, put a lot of pressure on our representatives, time to phone in, time to write in. There's going to be another March Against Monsanto on October 12th, which will really help to keep this issue in the public eye. But also, I think we really need to watch the Trans-Pacific Partnership and what they're doing, because they are moving really swiftly to implement worldwide corporate takeover, and we need to stop them because it's not just the food supply that's at risk, but there are so many other industries that are going to be affected by the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering more about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as well as its Atlantic partner, TAFTA, next week. You know, if the Bilderberg meetings and meetings like that are strategic long-term planning for the global elite, for the corporatists, these secretive treaties are really kind of the grassroots tactical meetings of how they're going to accomplish this New World Order. Now, stick around. Right after the break, we're going to be talking to artificial intelligence expert and cybersecurity expert Roman Yampolsky. And we're going to be talking about the threat posed by DARPA, by robots, and by the rise of the machines. So stay tuned. Now, previously unsuccessfully sued the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, that's FISA, which provides the legal framework for the NSA surveillance. No, that's wrong. There is no legal basis for the FISA court with some kind of face-saving lawsuits that really aren't going to do anything to stop the spying. All they're going to do is presumably allow them to talk about the fact that they're turning over X number of amount of information to the government per their request. It's not going to give us any. It's not just the IRS. It's not just the government. They have also drawn into their net of falling credibility corporations who are now trying to do a PR campaign to get the public to trust them again. Both Microsoft and Google came out this week, protection at all against illegal corporate spying, but it's meant to be a PR campaign. And Yahoo and Facebook have indulged in the same type of PR campaign. Listen to what Yahoo's CEO Marissa Mayer said. She said, Yahoo has